The establishment seems to be waking up to what is for them a very uncomfortable truth that Bernie Sanders could win the nomination. Now, recently, in an article in Politico, it's noted that in private conversations and on social media, you have Democratic officials, political operatives, and pundits that are reconsidering Sanders' chances, meaning they, actually decided to look at the political reality. And what they found is that Bernie Sanders has a good shot at winning and running away with the nomination. So now, let me give you some quotes here. So let's start out with the ever awful David Brock, who was quoted in this article. First, let me give you some background on David Brock for those of you who are unfamiliar. Brock used to be an attack dog for the right wing. In fact, hey, I'm with her folks, right? He came up and used some of the most vicious smears against Hillary Clinton. So, I mean, you see propaganda against your girl Hillary, it's David Brock. He was one of the ones who came up with a lot of this stuff. So now he had a supposed reformation, but in reality, he just got hired by the other side. So now he does the same kind of hit jobs, the same kind of smears, but for the establishment. So that's who they're quoting in this article. That's who Politico turns to, David Brock. And you're going to say that he also turns to they also turn to other insiders as well. But that's who's considered inside of the Democratic Party. So now, let me give you the quote here from Brock. He says, "It may have been inevitable that eventually you would have two candidates representing each side of the ideological divide in the party. A lot of smart people I've talked to lately think there's a very good chance those two end up being Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders." So now, originally there was a Elizabeth Warren that was considered to be that person to do the left of the ideological spectrum. However, Elizabeth Warren has not been doing so well as of recently, ever since one of the last debates. So now back to this quote here. They've both proven to be very resilient. And that would be, of course, Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders. Joe Biden, I'm a little concerned, right? Joe Biden, with everything that he's done and all the stuff that's come out so far, and just all the stuff that he's actually said on the campaign trail and off the campaign trail, that Joe Biden is still somehow in the lead. But I don't know for how much longer. But let's be honest, he is actually pretty strong in a pretty strong lead. So that's it, right? As far as Brock, in his opinion, well, look, he should know about resiliency of Bernie Sanders, because he has been working inside the establishment with the establishment to destroy Bernie Sanders for the last 3 years. Now, has it really worked? Not necessarily. He's still the most popular politician in the country. His support among minorities is the highest in the primary. So there's a couple of reasons why these insiders are spooked and are starting to see Bernie Sanders as a major threat. See, here's the thing. They didn't see him as a threat before. And you might think, well, now, wait a minute. Look, smear articles. No, in reality, it is a complete dismissal inside of, establishment inner circles, right? Washington circles. The cocktail circuit, they said, that could never have Bernie Sanders president. He could never win the nomination. No, he's too far left for me and my friends, right? And so, well, these people in the cocktail circuit, they are pretty wealthy. They're very well off, and they're centrist. They don't see they don't see the need for the working class to get stronger. For them, they're doing fantastic. And so they think, Bernie Sanders, change the system. No, the system's working perfectly just fine for me. Why would anybody want to change this? This is fantastic. All we got to do is just got to get that vulgar Mr. Trump out of office, and then everything will be just fine. That's why they're supporting people like Joe Biden and Pete Buttigieg, right? Because for them, that is a return to the status quo. That is a return to and literally no change for the actual system. But anyway, so now they don't understand. By the way, they don't understand these pundits, these insiders, the nature of Bernie Sanders' support. The reason that it doesn't go away, the reason that it's been consistent and continues to grow. People go to him, generally stick with him, and they don't get it. Now the other thing is that you have the fall of other candidates. You have Elizabeth Warren, right? Elizabeth Warren has fallen in the polls again, as I mentioned, after her healthcare plan came out. She was playing the centrist in the Republicans' game, and she got beaten, just like she has before on the issue. And that's, by the way, why she would not make a great Democratic candidate against Donald Trump. She was already baited by the Republicans into releasing some ridiculous DNA test. And we see how that turned out, right? And all the other things that she's done. But more importantly here for the insiders and why they're worried about Sanders is that you've had a lack of traction for all the other candidates that were supposed to beat Sanders. For example, other candidates with once high expectations, this is in the article, such as Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, and Beto O'Rourke, have dropped out or languished in single digits in the polls, meaning that people were just not interested. Now, Cory Booker's still in it. I think he's about 2 to 3%. That's what he's getting, right? So they've basically started there, and they're not moving whatsoever. Kamala Harris ran into fundraising issues. She was once ascendant, right, in the Democratic Party in the primary, or at least considered to be ascendant, and then just fell off. And look, I think the establishment really wanted Kamala Harris, but she couldn't break through. And just like Warren, she started falling when it came to health care. She revealed herself to be more status quo and did not really be on the side of Medicare for all. And again, Warren talked about choice. She emphasized choice in her public option plan, which she said, oh, no, that will eventually bring us to single payer in our third year. Now, by every metric, by the way, and the whole healthcare shakeup, the whole healthcare thing with Elizabeth Warren showed how different Warren and Sanders really are. Bernie Sanders says, let's do the whole push all at once. We'll get single payer immediately. He did not bow to the establishment or to the pundits or to the naysayers. He said, no, we have a plan, and that's what we're going to do. And the Jayapal plan is the strongest Medicare for all bill. And that's exactly what we're going to get. And a public option is not the same as single payer, does not work the same. And so it's not really a great preview for a single payer plan at all. But this just shows the big difference between Warren and Sanders. By every metric, Bernie Sanders is far more progressive than Elizabeth Warren. At the same time, you can also say Elizabeth Warren is far more progressive than the entire rest of the field, which is true. And on polling, Bernie Sanders is rated best on the major issues. For example, there's a new Reuters Ipsos poll. Bernie Sanders gets 27.1% support on his healthcare policy. That's more than anyone else. That eclipsed Biden and Warren by 9% and 14% respectively. So he's leading in the field on the issues. Here's another one. On the environment, Sanders beats Biden by 9.7% and Warren by 8.2%. He also comes out ahead on both the economy and jobs. People trust Bernie Sanders when it comes to policy, and people, more so than any other election, are paying attention to people's policies and actually will vote based not on who is the most electable, as they go back to the electability argument, but who represents them when it comes to policy. Not who would make the best president, but who has the best policies. All right. Now, based on all of this and the great polling matchups between Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump, where Bernie beats Trump, the establishment has finally admitted that they should stop writing off Bernie. In fact, Dan Pfeiffer, who served as an advisor to former President Obama, said this: "I believe people should take him very seriously. He's a very good shot of winning Iowa and a very good shot of winning New Hampshire. And other than Joe Biden, the best shot of winning Nevada." Nevada, very important because, like I said, it shows a lot of minority support in Nevada. So Pfeiffer continues by saying he could build a real head of steam heading into South Carolina and Super Tuesday. Not only that, but you have California as well. Bernie Sanders making a lot of inroads in California. In fact, he recently just got endorsed by the Young Democrats, California's Young Democrats, and has picked up a lot of local endorsements. So, and there's even opponents of Sanders and Sanders-backed candidates in California that have said things about, hey, man, look, Bernie Sanders doing much better than I anticipated. This is Scott Weiner, who defeated Sanders-backed Democrat for a seat in San Francisco back in 2016. He said in retrospect, he has a very, very loyal following, and people have really stuck with him. You want to know why? It's because Bernie Sanders is stuck with us. He's walked the picket lines. He's kept the same message. He's kept the same policy positions. He is still speaking about the same issues. He's very consistent. We're with him because he's with us on the issues. The whole reason people went with Bernie Sanders is like, hey, this guy's talking about things that are important to me. He's actually talking about policy. Oh, okay, he's actually addressing these things. We know where he stands. Well, it turns out, yes, we do want college that is free. Yes, we are drowning in student loan debt. Oh, and you want to eliminate that debt. That's great. Healthcare is one of our top issues. Medicare for all, single payer, eliminating premiums, copays, and deductibles. Better jobs, $15 at least minimum wage. Doing something about climate change with the Green New Deal. All these things. This is a very policy-focused primary. More so than anything else, than any other primary that I've seen. And look, I think this time it's because there's candidates in there that are actually talking about policy instead of ridiculous platitudes. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.